Yes.
Perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you have to give in this case will be the truth and the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated and state your full and legal names for the last name of record.
Justin Ray Alexander, Alexander.
Thank you. Detective Alexander, where are you employed?
City of Albany, Albany Police Department.
Okay, what's your current assignment?
Detective.
Okay. Is that in a particular division in the detective squad?
My primary caseload is drug crime.
In the course of your employment, are you acquainted with Richard Shawn White?
Yes.
And how did you become acquainted with him?
Well, the first time I spoke with Mr. White was April 29, 2013. I was aware of him before that from previous drug-related investigations.
Had he, to your knowledge in the past, worked as a confidential informant for Albany PD?
I'm going to object to relevance.
Well, at this point, I don't know if it is or not, so I will take your objection under consideration, and you may continue at this point.
In the past?
In the past.
As far as I know.
And so, on April 29th, did you have occasion to go to Mr. White's home on Boston Court in Albany? Hancock Court, I'm sorry.
Yes, I did.
And what was the nature of your visit to the home?
The nature of my visit was parole and probation. P.O. Chris Vosberg had gone out there, phoned me and indicated he had smelled marijuana in the house while he was conducting a routine parole probation visit.
And so you went out. Did you go out by yourself?
No, myself and Detective Johnson went to the residence.
Okay. And what did you find when you arrived there on April 29th? Can you just describe that to me? That was 2013, correct?
Yes. When we arrived, Mr. White was detained in handcuffs in front of his person. I assume he was detained by his P.O. He was in the living room. And P.O. Miller and P.O. Vosberg were standing in the living room as well.
Okay. Did you speak with Mr. White about searching the home?
I did.
And did he consent to a search?
Ultimately, he did allow a search of his house, yes.
Okay. And were you involved in that search?
I did not conduct the search. I spoke with Mr. White.
Okay. Were you part of the investigation and you spoke with Mr. White, and did you become aware of what was found there in his home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what did you find?
Specifically, well, generically, we found marijuana, suspected cocaine.
You say suspected cocaine. Was that field tested?
It was field tested. To my knowledge, it has not been sent to the crime lab.
Okay. Was the field test presumptively positive?
Yes.
Okay. And how much cocaine did you find?
Looks like 15.8 grams GFW.
Okay. Is that a personal use amount of cocaine?
It kind of depends on the person, to be honest. I would say that's a substantial quantity.
Okay. By statute, is there a differentiation by statute of how much cocaine is personal use and how much becomes possession for sale?
Per statute, no. There is a difference between, there is a weight that will make a drug offense a commercial level drug offense. Mm-hmm. I can't recall off the top of my head what that number is for cocaine, but I don't think the law draws a line between personal and delivery.
Okay. Did you also find packaging materials?
There was packaging materials. There was digital scale. Again, marijuana
And how much marijuana did you find?
combined. Sorry, I don't want to miss anything. We have 8.7 grams here. We have 104.6 grams here. 9.8 grams here. 11.6 grams. And again, that's all GFW, including baggies and everything.
Okay.
That was all marijuana.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And-
Judge.
Sorry, Judge.
So now, the statute does make some differentiations with regard to marijuana as far as weights in possession, right? I mean, you've got a violation if it's less than an ounce, is that correct?
Correct. Violation criminal. There is a weight standard, which has recently changed.
And 130 grams is, what, about 5 ounces, 4 ounces?
Correct. At the time, it was more than 1 ounce, which is that line in the sand as far as violation of crime.
Okay. And where were these items located?
They were in a black backpack in Mr. White's bedroom.
Was that on the floor, up high?
I believe it was on the floor.
Okay. Was it locked up?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So backpack was accessible if anybody was walking around in the home? You didn't need a key or a combination to get to it?
No. The bedroom, from what I recall, was unlocked and the backpack was just on the ground in the bedroom.
And did you locate, was everything contained in the backpack, or were there materials and paraphernalia elsewhere in the home?
Not everything located was in the backpack. There's some marijuana here that was in what appears to be a tin, some sort of cookie tin or something behind the bed in the master bedroom. Backpack. It appears everything except for item number 13 was in the backpack.
And that was the marijuana you described in the tin?
Correct, in the cookie tin.
Was Mr. White arrested that day?
No.
Has he subsequently been arrested?
Not by me.
And do you have any awareness if he was subsequently arrested in connection with your search of his home on April 29th?
I prepared a police report as well as other detectives involved that day, and the incident was forwarded to the district attorney's office.
And did you confiscate the drugs and other items that day?
Yes.
And so on April 29th, 2013 specifically, and was Mr. White's possession of cocaine, marijuana, the materials that you've described, the scale, a part in any way of an Albany Police Department operation?
No.
And were you aware that Mr. White's son, Logan, who was 12, lived at the home that day? Or was living at the home?
When we were there, he was not home. We did, however, there was a room that apparently was occupied by a child or a young person. But again, he wasn't there at the time, and I don't recall asking if he lived there or not.
Okay. Can you tell from your report what time you left Mr. White's home that day?
What time we left?
Uh-huh.
According to the CAD, it looks like we left at about 2:15 is when I show myself being available again.
And did you send a copy of your report to DHS?
I believe that a copy was forwarded to DHS. No, it does not look like it was sent to DHS.
And Did you go back to Mr. White's home for further searches since April 29th?
I went back to Mr. White's residence on the 30th of May, 2013.
Okay. And why was that? Is there something particular that triggered that happening?
I became aware of a report taken by Officer Beckwith where Logan White had been found to be in possession of some marijuana, and that his claim was he obtained the marijuana from Mr. White's residence.
And so,
When did you get this report?
I reviewed the report, Your Honor, on May 30th. I believe the original report was taken May 22nd.
Where was it taken?
It appears that Officer Beckwith took the report at 2721 Southeast Brookside Avenue.
does it indicate that that's Ms. Steele's home? Does this report indicate that?
Yes.
And so based on that report, you went back to Mr. White's home?
Correct. I went as well as Mr. Davis from DHS.
And did you search Mr. White's home on that date?
We did.
The 30th?
We did.
And what, if anything, did you locate that day?
We actually used a drug detection canine. The canine alerted to several areas in the bedroom. Detective Johnson searched those areas and found some empty Ziploc bags, an empty glass jar, and a spoon that the dog was indicating on. No quantity of drug was located that day.
Were those items tested for residue?
No, like the jar in the bag had visible marijuana residue in it, but.
Okay. And the dog, so I don't know that much about it, but he alerts based on drugs only, or does he alert to gunpowder, explosives, things like that as well?
I'm certainly no dog handler, and I don't handle that dog. My understanding is that he is trained to indicate to the odor of marijuana, methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin, is my understanding.
Okay. And when you searched, or were involved in the search at Mr. White's home on April 29th, 2013, were you aware that he was on probation and post-prison supervision for drug charges?
Yeah, his PO called me that day, and I was aware before that he was on supervision.
How long have you worked in drug crimes?
Specifically as a drug detective for approximately 3 years, almost 3 years.
Has it been in your experience that there are a significant amount of violent crimes related to drugs and drug trafficking?
Well, drug crime goes hand in hand with a multitude of other crimes, property crimes, person-to-person crimes. Rarely do we find, somebody violating a drug law that's not violating some other sort of law, if that's what you're asking.
No, I guess I was asking, is it a risky business?
Sure.
Okay. And is it typical that in a similar circumstance a report would be made to DHS Child Welfare when drugs are located in a place where a child resides, at least part-time?
Yes, it is protocol. Say I arrive at a residence or execute a search warrant where children are present, that the report is forwarded to DHS, yes.
But only if they're present at the time?
when they're present, when they're not present. In this case, I can only say that it was an oversight. Logan wasn't home at the time, and it was probably just an oversight on my part, or it was an oversight on my part that it didn't go to DHS.
And on May 30th, when Mr. Davis from DHS went out to the home with you, did you become aware he had then received the report?
Yes. He told me he had a copy of it.
I have nothing further for Detective Alexander.
Detective, I want to first ask you about April 29th, okay?
Yes, sir.
You said that you were out at Mr. White's home, and you described a number of items you found. Most of this was contained in a backpack, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And there was a backpack, and what else was there?
What did we seize?
No, not what was in the backpack, but described there was, how many items were there? There was a backpack, stuff in it, then what else was there?
I'm confused.
Well, you found one item, a backpack, right?
A backpack, correct.
Stuff in it.
Stuff in it.
Outside of the backpack, what else did you seize?
Okay, we
Besides
seized
something in the backpack or the backpack itself, what else was there?
item number 13, which is like a metal cookie tin that was behind the bed in the master bedroom. Let me refer to the property report real quick. We seized an iPhone 5 from the kitchen counter, 2 consent to search forms, a digital recording, and some photographs that we took. So one item seized from the residence that was not in the backpack.
But I walk in to the room, for instance, I don't see stuff laying everywhere. I see a backpack and a cookie tin. That's what's visible to someone who'd walk in. Is that fair?
Fair?
And Logan wasn't there at the time.
No.
You don't know when the last time Logan was there.
I have no idea when he was last there or when he was going to be there next.
Could have been days, could have been hours. You have no idea.
No idea.
Right. You know, when you went there later on May 30th, Mark Davis from DHS was with you?
Correct. I think we met there. Yes, he was there.
And Mr. White wasn't home when you first got there, is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Did you speak to him on the phone?
I did.
Where was he?
He told me he was on his way home from Portland from a dental visit.
Did he say you could search the home before he got there? Or did he
Well, he invited me to come and search his residence, and I told him that I'd meet him at his house.
Okay, but he gave you consent to go to his home and search it when he wasn't even there.
I didn't take it that way. He says, in fact, in my report I indicate, he tells me, Mr. White told me that it was impossible and requested that I come to his house to search it. He told me that he was currently driving back from the dentist in Portland, but he would be home soon. And I told Mr. White that I'd meet him at his house.
Right. And when you got to Mr. White's house, he wasn't home?
Correct.
How long did you wait for him to get home?
I don't recall, 10, 15, it wasn't long, 10, 15 minutes maybe.
Now you said in the April 29th occasion, there was no indication in your report that a dog was there, is that right?
There was no dog there that day.
But the dog was there on April 30th?
Correct.
And it alerted on a couple of items?
Yes.
Okay, so it's possible those items were there on April 29th. Dog just wasn't there, is that right?
It's possible.
But no actual drugs or no drugs were found on the May 30th incident?
Again, just
other than the items the dog alerted to, no actual marijuana was found?
right. There was some bags and some jars and things that had probably some or had visible marijuana residue, but no quantity.
Do you have you had occasion to go to Mr. White's home since May 30th?
I don't know that I have since May 30th. I don't think that I have, no.
Okay. Have you become aware of anything that's happened at his home since May 30th?
There have been some incidents involving Mr. White, but I believe they all took place off-site, involved with his cab and patrons of his taxi or something like that.
Okay. Did you ever have the chance to meet Logan or speak to Logan about it?
No. Officer Beckwith, I believe, spoke with Logan about the marijuana.
Okay, earlier you said you left at around 2:15. Was that 2:15 a.m. or p.m.?
It would have been PM.
Since May 30th, have you had in-person contacts with Mr. White?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
Four or five, roughly.
On those occasions when you've seen him since May 30th in person, have you searched him?
Yes.
Have you found any drug paraphernalia on him?
No.
When's the last time you had one of those contacts with Mr. White, to your recollection?
I'm estimating maybe 3 weeks to a month ago.
Okay, I have nothing further, Judge.
Nothing further for Detective
You may
Alexander.
step down.
Thank you.
May he be excused?
I have no objection to Detective Alexander being excused.
I have no objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Are excused.